Welcome to Granbelm episode 10, the magical mech show that's a little bit underappreciated by everyone else and a little bit overappreciated by me. I haven't gotten to cover the show over the last 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks have kind of been an arc about the Sui show, like Hakamada Sui show. I forget her name in its entirety. It's like a kind of longer name. She's like a kind of older, blue-haired girl who was like, she was initially the second in command to Anna, but now that Anna's kind of out of the picture, she's gotten more involved in the battle. And the last 2 episodes, including this episode, I think was a little bit of an arc with her, and kind of how she's really involved in this Granbelm thing, because we haven't really seen that much to do with her. But on the other hand, you know, now that she is in the forefront, we get to see these incredibly creepy things that she does. So in episode 8 was when she first gotten started, and then that Granbelm, like just after Anna had died, she like managed to, you know, creep out Kuan by like making out with her, and like eating a part of her soul, I think was her objective in that. And then episode 9 was really about her, you know, like doing this psychological warfare between Kuan and Mangetsu and Shingetsu, and kind of just getting in all of their heads and making them think that perhaps that, you know, really she brought to the forefront the fact that Granbelm is really about killing everyone else. And now that there's only 4 people left and 3 of them are allied against the other one, she's kind of putting in their heads that, you know, when I'm gone, what are you going to do? Like, when she's out of the picture, there's only 3 of them left and all of them are allied against each other now. And then there was, of course, the subplot, or kind of not the subplot really, but the motivation of why she's doing this, which we discover when she talks to Kuan's older sister, which is the reason why Kuan is in the battle, about how she and her older sister had this kind of relationship, and how this is like the turning point of these last 2 episodes, how her older sister really wanted Suisho to eat her. That's a weird phrasing, and she says it basically exactly like that. So I go with the translators here who made the subtitle and just kind of like scratching my head. Is this kind of like an allusion to kind of like a homosexual relationship, or is it more like a fetish type thing? We don't really know, but it's depicted as extremely sexual in the show, so we know it's something of that kind. And then of course there's a relationship between Shingetsu and Mangetsu, and the like B story, which was the investigation carried out by Nene-chan, who has been trying to discover why there's so much magic in the world when there's not supposed to be any magic at all. And this is kind of the thing that I've been pointing out since we started covering the show way back, is that we keep being told that there's no magic at all, and at every turn we see more and more magic, and people are able to use magic for this end and that end, and it really is just hard to convince yourself that there's no magic when you just keep seeing magic over and over again. And when she runs this analysis on her laptop, she sees like all this magic that really isn't supposed to be there, and it all seems to revolve around Mangetsu and her family, who don't really have any mage connections at all, but both her and her sister show up as these giant orange spikes on Nene's laptop when she looks at it. So that's really kind of like the behind the scenes mystery that we've been dealing with the past couple of episodes. And episode 9 ended with another Granbelm in which only 4 of them are left, and Suisho makes like this battleground where she wants the other 3 to fight against each other until there's only 1 person left, so she can come in, take out the winner of those 3, and then just win Granbelm and become the Princeps Majitsukai. But what ended up happening was she lured Kuan into an attack that maybe was not the best idea to do so in that moment. And when in Kuan's moment of weakness, when she was about to give up, you know, she had this whole emotional realization, and she went out of her like trance and attacked her. And she realized that her sister was only doing all the things that she was doing with Suisho in order to so that they will be able to defeat her. See, this is like a really long summary of all the events of the past 2 episodes. And then after that, that was all to lure like Mangetsu into this like attack where she ultimately gets, you know, stabbed in her mech, and that's where we left off in episode 9. So without further ado, let's get started with episode 10. Whoa, what? Okay, first of all, a couple things. First of all, how does she know this at all? There's no reasonable way that she could know this, and they don't know this. Second of all, this all makes perfect sense now, because she just so happened to be in the same class, like her magical powers just unleashed themselves. You know, she was best friends with Shingetsu from the very start, like they had this chemistry right off the bat. Second of all, this show has already established that, you know, memories can be lost, memories can be gained, like in a matter of seconds. So we had Anna's like memories completely erased from the entire world, and her sister has a new older sister now, and then Nene just completely forgot that Anna ever existed at all in this world. So there's like memory discrepancies between people, which is one of the things that disturbed Nene so much in the beginning when she began investigating. And now we get this reveal, which is like she's basically just a magical construction, which is why her, like magic stats, peak every chart that Nene is able to measure them with. This is kind of nuts. It also proves that there's magic in the world, I guess. That's just like a side proof of this, is that there's plenty of magic in the world. It hasn't really gone anywhere. What else can you say? We just started the episode. It's already crazy. I just realized something else. So they actually foreshadowed this way back in episode 7, I think it was, when they showed like that Ernesta can like help other people do magical stuff, and like the reason that some things happen in the world is because Ernesta wills it to be that way. Because Anna's whole like identity of herself as like this magic using person is only because Ernesta is like channeling her magic through Anna every time that she wants to use it. And really that's what this is in a kind of way. Like Mangetsu is like this manifestation of Ernesta's like desire to have a friend that understands her completely and loves her unconditionally. And that kind of this is very Haruhi Suzumiya in the way that they're presenting this. Of course, with that spice of like mech and like battle royale and like the fate and the magical like lines, but like the way that her unconscious desires manifest themselves in this world is very like old school melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Well, that was pretty intense. So a couple things about the show in general before I go into specifically what happened there. So fundamentally, this show is like, to me, this show is about like the relationships between women, like all the different types of relationships that you can possibly have between all types of women. So you have like a good kind of friendship, then you have like a parasitic kind of bad type of friendship, then you have like a positive mother-daughter relation, then you have like a negative mother-daughter relation, like the one between Anna and her mom. Then you have like a kind of like a positive sister relation, which we say with Mangetsu and her sister, and kind of like a negative, kind of like full of resentment, kind of like jealousy and like harboring all these bad feelings kind of sister relationship with Anna and Ernesta. Even though she doesn't want to acknowledge her, technically they are still like sisters. They grew up together and all that. So when you see, and then of course there's like the Kuan and her sister relationship, which is just like next level weird. It's like if Itachi was in a coma somewhere and had set up a master plan for Sasuke to save the village. That's kind of what it's like. And then there's this like Shuiso, who brings this element of like a lover type relation. She's obviously extremely negative lover type relation. And then Shingetsu, Mangetsu kind of make up like I think there's something going on there, kind of like positive lover type relation. We won't really see that because of the way that anime works, but we kind of get hints as to how that works. And then Shuiso just shows up and is like this manipulative, like domineering, like just wants to take over everything kind of negative type of relationship, example. And she really does a good job in that. She shines in her role, I would say, like 100%. And the way that she just took over the show the last 3 episodes has kind of been like, it's just really her like debut out here, and they wrapped up Kuan's 3-episode arc very effectively, I would say. And before that, we had a 3-episode arc about Ji Guanlong and Nene and all that. So the show is really doing its best to like give us as much of these characters as we can handle, possibly, because I'm assuming that the characters is the way that the show is really going to get to people, because it's probably their most unique offering is the characters and the way that they portray them, and like their complex familial backgrounds and like their various motivations that they have. And then you have Mangetsu, who has no motivation. That we delved more into that in this episode in particular. So in this battle, basically all 3 of them are fighting Shuiso, except Shingetsu's mech barely works and Mangetsu's in like some kind of psychological breakdown, so she can't really think about battling all that much. She's just trying to save Shingetsu, and then Kuan is doing her best to defeat Shuiso, but it didn't really go all that well. And since we've gotten a hint about demons in the past, it seems to me that Shuiso is the demon in this, because she got stabbed right in the chest and basically nothing happened to her. So I'm guessing that's not normal for people. This show is getting actually towards like the tippy top end of it, and the only real character arc left for people to have or people to see is the one battle between Shuiso and the two of Shingetsu Mangetsu. I'm assuming that's going to be handled in the rest of this episode, and the next episode onward we're going to see the final battle between Shingetsu Mangetsu. Seeing as how one is a creation of the other, is it really a battle, or is it more of like, like I'm going to uncreate you unconsciously the way that I created you, or is it more of like you should probably quit now, in the way that Ernesta tried to get Mangetsu to do last episode? She tried to get her to step out because she knew that we were going to get to this point, the tippy end of the battle when you and your friend have to duke it out to see who wins. Only one person can win after all.
どちらをお尋ねですか?
Oh, yikes. This is the worst. Oh, God. First it was Anna, now it's her. But she didn't even lose. She didn't even lose in Granbelm. So how is she suddenly erased from everyone's memory? Is it because she was made aware of her existence as a doll, that now she can't exist within, the falsified framework of before? Oh, God. That's pretty complicated. So if she tells them that they're fake, do they just disappear, or do they also become unable to remember each other? That might be even worse. So she should probably just leave them alone as is. If she wins, can she make it better? Oh, this is just horrible. Whenever memories are brought into anything, it's always just gets worse.
やっぱりクオン誰知ってる?
Dude, the stakes have just gotten so high at this point. She lost her memories. Freaking Kuon has been erased from existence. Anna has been erased from existence. Like, losing in this at the very beginning seemed like you just go back to the real world and then your family's ashamed of you or whatever. But now it seems like you really just don't even want to participate at all, which is what they told us in the beginning. But it was hard for us to, have any sense of scale of that, because we didn't really see the fallout of what could happen if you lost. But now we're very well informed of the fallout of what could happen if you lose. You lose everything. Like, she lost her whole family. That was the only reason she wanted to participate in this in the first place. And it's been affirmed time and again that she's nothing, with no value whatsoever in this world. I don't know how hard you want that hammered into you before you just give up and crawl into a corner. But if I were this girl, I would have quit a long time ago. So good on her for even making it to this point. But it's really not like a good thing to be where she is now. But also we get the nice, side effect of her not having to battle Ernesta at any point, because now that she's a doll, she's not qualified to be Princeps Mage anyway. So she doesn't have to worry about that really. She can focus on both of them defeating Suisho together. That being said, both of them are in no mind state to do any such thing. They only have 2 episodes to do it, so I don't know how they're going to do it. This is bad juju all around. Just really bad juju.
親友が人形だったと知ってもなお魔術師を目指せるのか?
Every time this lady talks, it just completely blows my mind. She's already told us that, Mangetsu is a doll, and like now she says something about gods, and like, so what's worse? Like a million, fairly weak mages, or one like godlike mage where all that magic is focused into one person? To me, it seems like the million people who can summon fire and clean a little bit of the dishes with their magic is a far, better fate than this lady becoming a godlike Princeps Mage. Who knows what she could or could not do? We've already seen like the extent to which the Magia Conatus is doing, is willing to go just to pick the Princeps Mage. And now she's telling us that this is like a test for godhood, which basically means anything goes, because when you're a god, you can do whatever you want. So if you want to attain that status, you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices, seemingly. This is a heck of a twist to throw in the third quarter. And if you thought life was hard for Ernesta, this is even worse. Like, her whole existence is now being doubted. Like, her whole reason for living is now some weird rationale to try and figure out a way for her to become the Princeps Mage. And her whole life has been a test so far. Basically, she's been given all this magical power and this ability to do stuff that she previously could not have done. And then she's just been told, this whole time you thought you were just a normal person and you didn't have parents and you were adopted and everything. But really, you're this candidate that's being groomed by Magia Conatus this whole time to try and fix its own system and make you the Princeps Mage. Weird solution, if any. But now she's even more down than she ever was. And Suisho's been in her head since forever, because she knows truths about her that she herself doesn't know, which is always a bad way to start off any kind of antagonist-protagonist relationship. This is going to get really wild by the end of this. what? The sister woke up? I thought she sacrificed herself so that they would have a chance to beat Suisho. I guess not. That's weird. Okay. Yikes. Ernesta and Mangetsu were both having like this existential crisis. And then the sister shows up out of nowhere, and then I'm so confused. Every time this episode ends on a cliffhanger, every time the show ends any episode on a cliffhanger, I just completely go crazy because I'm just considering all the possibilities of what could happen in the next couple of episodes. We only have really 2 episodes to work with, so I don't really know how far they're going to go with this, but they've already gone pretty darn far with it, I would say. This episode is, if this isn't like the dip before the victory at the end, if it's just going to end extremely tragically and sad, yikes. I mean, it's a trope at this point. Like the Dark Magical Girl show is a trope at this point, but like, they did this pretty well. It started off really like kind of optimistic and like, I want to become this mage in this competition, which definitely is not rigged, definitely is not like a bait. You know, it's not a debate. We're not just being dragged into this so that it can kill us and then vanish our memories from this world. There's definitely a bigger point to everything, and as the series gone on and on, it kind of becomes like this like existential dread of, is this really for any purpose? And then we find out that it's rigged and it wants Ernesta to win this whole time, and then all the setup has just been to test her in one way or another, and it made her friend so that she would have a reason to enter this and like feel some kind of companionship. And then Anna's gone, she had to conquer like every single challenge. Everything has to do with her in some extension or capacity. And now we're like to the very end where Suisho just wants to prove that, you know, it's not rigged, and then she can actually win, and she's heavily employing her psychological warfare in order to do so. How do you feel about that? I'll be like, hey, whatever gets the W at the end of the day, but, you know, it doesn't help that she's hurting our, you know, beloved main characters that we've been with now for 10 episodes. The show's getting really dark at this point. Like, Shingetsu has no reason to exist. She kind of just wants her life to end. Or no, that's Mangetsu wants her whole life to end, and Shingetsu's like been told that she's like this, she's basically the epitome of everything that she hates. You know, she's like this thing that's beloved by magic itself and created by magic itself to bring, you know, order to it, or like become the Princeps Mage from the very beginning of her life. She's been blessed and like guided along this path, and her whole goal, as we've been conveniently reminded at the end here, is that she just wants it all to be gone. She doesn't want any managers, any magic, any mages, no Magia Conatus, nothing. She wants all of it to be gone, and then to be told that she's basically the reason all of it exists in the first place is like, you know, just stab me in the heart kind of sadness. And then Shingetsu's like, she just wanted to prove that she wasn't nothing, that she wasn't just a zero. And then she was told that she's literally not even a human anymore, or never was a human to begin with. So if this isn't the low point for our protagonists, I don't know what is. If you're not watching the show at this point, I don't expect you to. Maybe I'll make a little note about how dense shows really work better in a week-to-week aspect. To me, it seems like an example, probably the best example of it that came out this year was Sarazanmai is so dense. I mean, I talked for like 30 minutes at one point about each episode. And there was more to say for sure, because it's so like abstract and interpretive that you could do whatever. But if you watch that show back to back, you're just going to be dizzy with all the possibilities and options that which I get at the end of every episode that I do of this show. Just dizzy with all the possibilities and options, and they don't help by ending it on a cliffhanger nearly every time. But you know, it's just one of those things. If you're watching a very dense kind of layered show, if you watch it all in one stretch, I don't really think it's going to stick with you as much as if you watch it over a longer period of time, just because you have more time to think about it and kind of stew in all the themes and the characters and everything. Of course, this is my opinion. You're welcome to have your own opinion, but that's just the way I think about things, is that if it's a dense show, I prefer to watch it week to week. And really, that's what I'm looking out for, you know, in this anime world, is like all these dense shows. That's really what I love to dig into. And some of them may be for you, some of them maybe not. But to me, this show is worth examining in the way that it is, because it does really take its time to like go through all these character motivations, and character is always fun to talk about. So that's it for this week of Granbelm episode 10. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought of this episode. Tell me what you think of the show. It seems like some of you really like it, and some of you haven't seen it, or maybe don't think I should appreciate it as much as I do. Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.